This podcast is dedicated to sharing the practice of meditation, the philosophy of Western Buddhism, and the refuge and love of our TBC Sangha. Offering solutions that are simple, practical, and true. We believe happiness and better health are available to all people and for all people. We are here each week to lend wisdom and support to all who are making or considering making this journey. This is Om on the Range. Hello and welcome. This is Om on the Range. You are joining us for episode number 17. My name is Whit, and I am happy to be here and happy to serve as co-host. Speaking of co-hosts, we are thrilled to have Miss Jordan Colley back as co-host. Welcome, Jordan.
Hello, Whit. It's a pleasure as usual.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we could do this. It's always fun to have you on. We are the middle of November, right there on the cusp of what is known here in the Western world as the holiday season. We're going to take some time on this episode to talk a little bit about the major holidays that's coming up, Thanksgiving. So to begin with, Jordan, do you want to just give us an idea? What's Thanksgiving mean to you? How do you feel about the holiday?
I picked the worst time to not eat before doing this podcast, by the way, if we're going to be sitting here talking about Thanksgiving.
It was true.
Yeah, it's wholesome. It's comforting. It's nostalgic. I like seeing some of my favorite dishes. Yeah, I think that I keep it simple nowadays.
So with the holidays, yeah, it's a big, it's funny where it falls. Thanksgiving is probably my favorite holiday, frankly, because it's that right mix of good intention and quality family time. Generally, we get pretty good fall weather. It's just right in the middle of autumn, and it's also a big kickoff, I think, for what's to follow. What was Thanksgiving like for you growing up?
I feel like my Thanksgiving were probably like most other people's. I think Thanksgiving can kind of be a little of a cliche just with what you're eating. I would say that I had a lot of the same traditions a lot of my friends had, and my parents were together until I was like 12. And then once they separated, they changed in effort and what they were cooking. And if my parents were dating someone else, it was kind of always interesting to have those blends happen later. My mom ended up remarrying my stepdad, and he is an insane cook. So it definitely got more exciting when different characters came in and beginning these traditions. But yeah, I see it for what it is. A lot of times it's not so serious. I don't feel like there was a lot of chaos in relation to my Thanksgivings. They were always laid back. I never really had to travel anywhere. There wasn't anybody like competing over making certain dishes or, cutting the bird or anything like that. So I'll probably be pretty laid back throughout this whole episode, not being triggered or anything.
Well, yeah, it comes every year. And as a kid, I just remember that, it was all like Christmas without the presents, so that was first and foremost. The food was, we tend to have the same thing, every year. I don't recall that being such a big deal to me as a child. It was just, we got a Thursday off. I think it's certainly grown. Now it's become a 4-day weekend and it's a bigger deal. I think I enjoy it more too as an adult than I did as a child. I think part of it is a better understanding of what the holiday's about. But again, part of it is that it seems like it's a pretty laid back, relaxing holiday, and you're not quite so caught up in the meeting and the gifts and all the prep work. So, I think that's one of the things I love about it is it's a big holiday, but how you approach it and what you do with it is kind of your own thing. So I chose very early in life to make sure that when the holidays come around, I would embrace them. Not because I'm some wise human being, but because, hey, they come around every year. And I just didn't see the logic or the wisdom in trying to, dislike them or resent them. So again, it seems like as I've grown up, I've become more infatuated with Thanksgiving and really the whole holiday season. But I may be alone on all that.
Well, I think we're also, being practicing Buddhists, probably going to take a lot more of a laid back approach against most life events, I would hope. But also, you did kind of say they do come every year. I have absolutely experienced resistance towards seasons and change and the feelings that come with holidays for sure in the past. I've wished for things to be different in terms of, oh, why does it have to get dark so early? And why do we have to go to that third person's place to eat? And well, or do I really have to fight with my sister on who's going to host the food? Like I've been invited and shown up to many of those kind of conversations. And I like that you said, and we're kind of keeping that theme of that laid back approach, because you do have to have these experiences to kind of create the boundaries around the holiday to know what's worth the suffering or not. So, I would say, even if you listen to this podcast and you go into it very Zen and it blows up in your face, I would say that it was not all lost. Those experiences were absolutely necessary in the sense of creating what you'd like in the future.
Right, right. I think you hit upon a great tip also is that no matter how zen you think you're going to be going into anything, chances are if you have to prep yourself by reminding yourself to be more present and open, and those are all good things and you should do that. There's also probably an equal amount of chances that there could be a trap, or something that you could get caught up in if you're not careful. I think that family gatherings, first and foremost, can be fraught with that kind of stuff because if you have some trauma, whether it's yours or whether it's just the families that everyone is kind of tiptoeing around, one of the challenges of being a Buddhist is that not everybody's a Buddhist. So, just because you're going to be more Zen and more accepting does not mean that there won't be fireworks, at the family gathering and that's true for any family, right? It's certainly harder where there's more trauma and there's more history of whatever sort of bad behavior or strange relationships, whatever we want to call that. But even in squared away, loving families, you just never know with a family event. Some people are caught up in who's going to make the gravy, and some people are caught. It's a big deal to some people that we always have pumpkin pie and damn it, you brought pecan, and it's like, well, it's hard to be Zen through dessert sometimes, it's like, well, I didn't expect that. Buddha didn't say anything about those things. So our family gatherings, besides being fraught with traps, as I said, an opportunity to really learn, as you said, what else do you think I don't want to say good for, because I know it's great to be in a loving, close, kind family. By the way, if any of my family's listening, I'm certainly in that. But there's so much that you can get from a family gathering. How do you go into?
So I have many great teachers, and I know this quote has been run around a lot, and Ram Dass is excellent for bringing in humor, but Victor brings up this quote too, and it's, if you think you're enlightened, go home to your family. And I stand by that so much because it is funny, but it is true. He also teaches an interesting concept about somebodyness. And so essentially when we're born or, we go into somebodyness training and we're told, we're a woman or a man or, our ethnicity or our job positions or, we're in the culture, we're very much predispositioned to be somebody. And so when you start to deconstruct your personality and work with your ego, Ram Dass likes to talk about it being an nobody training. And so we get really afraid by this concept of being nobody, but really you're talking about kind of willing the witness. When I see my family, not all of them are practicing Buddhism. I will say that the more you practice, though, the more runoff they get from you, which is really fun.
Right.
So, it's kind of like a spigot or something. I love everyone in that sense for being there's somebody, it's not my job to sit there and tell them about my nobodiness. And it's also not my job or beneficial for me to judge them for their realness that they feel and their somebodyness. So hopefully that's not too confusing sounding. I appreciate everybody for their imperfections and even my own, before I can even sit here and say my sister drives me nuts when she's late, I'm probably rushing there. So
Right. Right. I think family gatherings also give us a really good opportunity to practice being compassionate with people that again, we spend our whole lives with, or a lot of our lives with. We share the same genetics and we share some of the same experiences to some extent. So we have a lot in common. We've been through a lot. Maybe we've got some history that's not always real positive. Some people look at the holidays as a chance to dig all that back up, whether I'm mad because I was victimized, or I was the bully then and I'm still the bully now, or now I'm the drunk version of the person that you don't always love to be around, whatever that is. But I think that it's a chance to practice compassion for ourselves and for others. And so that would be my tip. If if you've got to spend time or you notice that, hey, I'm feeling some tension here, you're not comfortable with the family piece of it, to just really be open to bringing some compassion and just listening, and listening in such a way that, hey, I'm going to listen in such a way that I'm going to help this person relieve some of their suffering. I don't have to judge what they tell me. I don't have to take it personally. I don't have to defend anything. And that's hard to do. I get it. But that compassion you bring also acts as a shield to, or a way to transform maybe whatever that pain is that you might be feeling or discomfort. I think it's a real chance to practice in such a way. And holidays and family gatherings are ideal for that, because a lot of times there is a lot of trauma there. Even with families that love each other, misunderstandings happen. Sometimes people are in a bad mood for no good reason and they take it out on their own person. And if you can be compassionate through that, maybe you don't have to deal with it in a month at Christmas. So I think that's a good tool to utilize, regardless if you're a practitioner or Buddhist or whatever you call yourself. Bring compassion, use that as a shield, use it as a gift to others. It'll help you as well.
Adding to this toolbox would also be, once you start developing that gratitude, the more that you choose presence, the more you can actually have that gratitude, because you can start to see things for what it is. I think that if we can trek through the rest of our lives and just develop presence, that's going to be the sharpest tool in the tool shed, because how else are you going to be those deep levels of gratuitous for seeing people for what they are and the situation for what it is, and not disturbing the reality with your own mental delusions.
Right.
That's, everybody's having this concept of their reality and their experience with the holiday. And it's pretty wild to me that we all just group together with varying different life experiences and expectations. And then hopefully we have a shared enough experience to be happy. That's why I think people get so disgruntled or easily agitated, because, we're all so different in our experiences. So practicing that presence, that presentness, and bringing it to, it's like a porch light on. We're supposed to adventure. It reminds me when I was a kid and I would go out and go play, but I always knew, like, when the porch light came on, it was time to go home. It was getting dark out there. So that's my kind of metaphor. If it's getting dark, go back home, go back into the body. I think that's, kind of our superpower. That's kind of a weird word to say with, practicing, but yeah, it leads you home every time.
Yeah, I think it's such a good opportunity to utilize the toolbox, and it's not complicated, but it does require that you stay aware and stay focused and accept what's going on and how everyone is, and then trying not to get caught up in the crossfire. So practicing kindness and start with yourself, practicing awareness, start with yourself. If you wake up on Thanksgiving Day, for example, and you don't feel great, just understand that, hey, that's going to be part of it. Whether it's cold or I'm tired or whatever, just be aware of that. And I think also one of the other survival tips we wanted to hit upon it, this seems like a good time, is managing expectations. Big holidays, big family get-togethers, lots of food and drink. Everybody has these expectations of what Thanksgiving should be, for example. It's a shared national event, a shared experience. And that's great, but I think you can really help your experience by starting with some expectations, such as, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to be grateful that I have a place to go and that I have these people in my life. I am going to embrace what's going on. I'm going to notice it, but I'm not going to necessarily get caught up in it. I think just making sure that you, again, just manage what you think this is going to be. Not use it as an opportunity to relive past grievances, to get back at anyone or anything, to show that you're better than you were or that they're worse than they are. Just go, try to enjoy it, observe it. And like you said, if it starts to get too much, go back home. And that's both literal and figuratively. If you can, draw back to your body, check in, reestablish that connection. But if that means that, hey, I'm going to take my pie to go, then do that too. That's okay. It's your holiday. Embrace it. You don't have to live up to your expectations or anybody else's. Just enjoy the fact that you get a Thursday off and the food is generally pretty good.
I'm such a creature of habit too, and I caught myself wanting to be so nostalgic in the sense of what I'm doing. So if I had one good Thanksgiving, 4 years ago, I'm going to try to replicate that, So I want to just encourage that you can change it up. You don't have to necessarily try to recreate. And a lot of traditions can lead to attachment. And so it's important that we notice where the qualities of how we're spending the holiday are going. So we don't need to wear that same Thanksgiving turtleneck or bake those cookies to that exact crispiness or something. This is really funny. I was a vegetarian for like 10 years. So Thanksgiving was always very awkward because for 1 year I was on a soapbox. How could you eat turkey?
Right.
A second year I was like jealous and missing out. I was like, I wonder what turkey tastes like. It's been so long. And then maybe the third year, and I could go on and on, I made a tofurkey. And that is probably one of the funniest Thanksgivings I've ever had because I made everybody, by very unpopular opinion, eat this tofurkey. And since then I've regained eating turkey. But it's funny. You can collect Thanksgiving memories kind of like stickers or something. You don't have to take it so seriously.
Right. And that was our third survival tip for this holiday. That was just, embrace the chaos, notice it, welcome it, enjoy it. You don't necessarily though have to participate. You don't necessarily have to get in the middle of it. I think that it's also important to, while being thankful and feasting and enjoying the tradition, I think especially if you're concerned about how the gathering might go, wherever it is and whoever you're gathering with, maybe it's a good idea to make sure we don't overconsume, that we don't confuse a feast with gluttony, for example, or that we don't allow our peace and our happiness to get railroaded by that fourth glass of wine, seventh beer, whatever that number is. There's no problem with how you choose. But I think, again, if you know that, hey, this is going to be different, or maybe you're just curious about, hey, maybe I can approach this holiday as an opportunity just to, again, be grateful, be compassionate, be there to help relieve any suffering that might come up, then if you're going to try to be a little more focused on those things, maybe keeping an eye on how much you eat and drink is a better way to go. Just a possible strategy. I don't want to harsh anybody's Thanksgiving Day buzz, but don't let alcohol and pecan and pumpkin pie shoot your wheels off.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because I just want to give a little special support to the people who are deciding not to drink over the holidays. I am so there with you. This is my eighth Thanksgiving alcohol free. And I remember in the earlier times, in the first few years of not drinking, it felt so weird to decline drinks, to be around people who were drinking, and kind of wondering if I was just being too hard on myself or too disciplined on myself to even abstain. So, I just want to give you a little more support that it seems so normal for a lot of people to be drinking, and you're kind of the abnormal one if you're one of these people who are abstaining from alcohol. Just know that there's so many times people don't even admit that they're not drinking for fear out of judgment. And you have my support wholeheartedly, just to know that I won't be drinking. There's such power that comes back with sobriety in general. I always feel super elated the next day after just getting through these holidays without a hangover. My tip is buy your own special drink. Feel pride with a sense of caution. You don't want to get too prideful because this doesn't need to become an identity, but you can just play with that too. It doesn't need to be as damning not drinking it as damning to drink, but there's more people out there trying to gain control over their drinking than you probably realize. So I'm proud of you if you are watching this holiday.
Yeah, this might be an opportunity, even if it's just for the day, to say, you know what, I'm going to enjoy this holiday and it's cranberry juice instead of vodka and cranberry juice. And again, neither one of us are trying to impart our moral judgment on anything like that. But if surviving the holidays and getting through Thanksgiving is any kind of challenge, that's a good plan. It gives you an opportunity to see it from a different angle. And anytime we can get out of our egoic mind and use a tool like that, then it's a great opportunity. And maybe you should try that. And, if you listen to this podcast and think that's a terrible idea, that's okay too, but that's a great point. I was hoping we could just touch real quickly on the power of the holiday in terms of gratitude and being thankful. It's one of the things I love about Thanksgiving. I think it's a very American holiday. It started here. I think Labor Day might be our strangest holiday because I never really understood. I certainly think people who labor deserve a holiday. On the flip side of that, now that I've made fun of Labor Day, I think Thanksgiving is amazing because it is without a lot of religious trappings. We're just taking a moment to be thankful. And if that means to be thankful to God, that's great. And if you want to be thankful to your parents, that's great. And ideally, you're going to be thankful to everything across the board, including the things that may cause some suffering, because you realize that suffering is there to teach you and you're thankful for those opportunities. That is a little bit of a Western Buddhism take on Thanksgiving, which of course is par for the course with this podcast. But how do you feel about the base of this holiday, about what it's supposed to be? And do we do a very good job of leading up to it?
I would say that with the ups and downs of life that are just like inevitable, I think talking about this in terms of Western Buddhism, it's great that it is the middle way because you learn how to enjoy the pie, but you notice it when it becomes suffering. Like if you're feeling sick or, you don't necessarily need to experience any part of the holiday in duality. So it sounds harder than it is. And I like to keep it simple. The more you practice it with whatever life experience that is popping up, the easier it becomes. Like, for instance, this is kind of a gross example, but I have a baby, so lots of things are gross. But anyway, he had a blowout and got over the couch. And so I had to move the couch and clean the couch. And then I found my glasses that had been missing for 2 months. And so I was very grateful that baby pooped on the couch today. And that is a practice. Those are runoffs. So
you found the glasses under the couch?
Yeah, because I moved the couch and I never would have looked for them there.
There was some question as to how the glasses got where they got, and now we know. So that's good.
Well, I clearly didn't see where I was putting them.
That's fair enough. So with, and this kind of leads us back to survival tips, but, maybe the best way for Thursday, for Thanksgiving, is just to remember to be thankful for all of it. I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful for the food. I'm thankful for my family. I am thankful for the people that are irritating the loving hell out of me right now. I am thankful that I get to go home later. I think that is a great approach to this holiday, whether you're dreading it or whether you can't wait for it to come about. I think it's a way to enhance it for everyone, both you and the people that are around you. And I think ideally also, it's not a bad way to live your life, is just to be thankful first and foremost.
I have a couple tips for you, in
Sure.
general, if, you're needing to decompress after visiting family. One of them is to take back roads home. You don't necessarily need to jump on the highway. A lot of people use GPS, and there's actually a way that you can avoid highway, so you can just take a new route home. It just gives you a minute to not just see the same old streets. And then I'm huge into writing myself a return note. So if I'm going to do something that kind of stresses me out or makes me feel nervous, I'll write that note. So when I come home, I can see this loving note that I wrote myself. And it was, I'm so proud of you, or you did this and you didn't fall to pieces, or whatever it is. That is just another loving kindness way of just showing yourself.
Right, right. I have not taken any hostages so far this holiday season. That's got to be great. So with the holidays, what's your plan for practice? Do you practice more? Do you practice less? Are you just consistent through it? What are your thoughts on that?
I definitely should probably always practice more. I don't know. I've never questioned whether I can meditate too much, but
Right, right.
but yeah, I always like to kind of ramp it up just because it does get dark earlier. And I feel like my mood fluctuates between just the idea of all the consumerism and the present buying that is moving into Christmas. Like I don't know many people who can't just simply go through this season without acknowledging that kind of strange pressure that kind of builds up. So I think meditating more would be more ideal. As I move through it, though, I will say each year I stay involved with TBC and I talk to other practitioners, I am able to stay more present and can just notice the tiniest details and really just see it for what it is. And so hopefully I will stay in that mindset.
I think that's an excellent tip also, with being thankful and being compassionate and lowering expectations, and maybe at least being aware that, hey, maybe I could go without a bunch of booze or overeating. Just being aware of all of that is so enhancing to the holiday and to your life. So even if you fight with your uncle and storm out early and drink too much and wake up with a half a pie in your bed, wonder what the world happened, even if all those things happen, you're aware. It's okay to look back on that and say, okay, well, that, maybe that got away from me a little bit, but that's okay. I've learned that. I've learned some things. It's not about being right or wrong. It's just about being aware. And the other piece, now that I painted such a beautiful picture for the holiday, is that no matter how it goes, make sure you're kind. Make sure you're kind to yourself. Make sure that if somebody needs to be forgiven, you forgive them. And again, I don't care if it's anybody else, but make sure you forgive yourself. You're doing the best you can. You're growing. This is just another day. It can be a beautiful day. It can be enjoyable, but no matter what it is, embrace it, be a part of it, be thankful, and be kind. Start with yourself.
To piggyback off that, it's great to just say that this is a lot. I don't know how many times I tell myself that this is a lot right now, and it's okay that it's a lot. So yeah, there's so much happening. I always feel like the end of the year is such a tailspin already because it's a notice for reflection. And reflecting can also bring up just a multitude of things too. So just be gentle, be gentle.
Yeah, I think that's all good. And I think that's pretty good advice to get through. It's a great holiday. I love it to death, but it can be a lot. The only other thing I wanted to share about this holiday and about practice in particular is if you don't have a meditation practice, but you are interested in maybe having some more awareness and having a happier, healthier lifestyle, one of the things you can do that's very simple is when you wake up in the morning before you start the day, take 10 deep breaths, set a posture while you're laying in bed. You don't have to get up. You don't have to have a full blown altar or anything like that, but take those 10 deep breaths and just pay attention to the breath. And that's a trick you can use anytime in the middle of the holiday, while you're driving, when you're trying to go to sleep, to just reset yourself, check in with the body, and help relax and stay more calm. So we're going to spend some more time as a podcast talking about how to build a practice and doing some more practical stuff that is on the agenda. And we're going to try to make this a little more accessible. But again, that's an easy way to get started. So and the holidays are a great time to do that. Do it for yourself, but also do it for everybody else who's got to spend the holidays with you. We are just about done. Jordan, did you want to add anything else before we wrap it up?
I just want to let you know that I'm thankful for you, Whit, and I'm thankful for this podcast and Sangha, and much love to you during the holidays.
That is so sweet. It's really nice to know that someone is thankful for me. So thank you very much for being on. As always, you're a tremendous co-host and a tremendous friend. Have a great Thanksgiving. And to our listeners, I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving and remind you that this podcast can be found on Spotify as well as on the TBC Facebook page. And if you want to, you can email us at omontherangepodcast@gmail.com. We will drop episodes every Friday. I want to thank you for listening. Happy holidays and happy trails. Thank you to Mr. Tim Behrens for producing this episode. And thank you to Brad Athey for providing the music. And thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey as we discuss meditation and Western Buddhism and celebrate the path to a happier and healthier life. Less suffering and more joy are available to all people. While we cannot control what happens to us, we can control how we react. It just takes practice. Until next time, stay grounded and find peace in the simple, practical solutions. This is Om on the Range, wishing you happy trails.